The Galactic Peacekeeper Academy stood like a spearhead against the horizon. Sleek towers of titanium alloy and atmospheric steel rising through the low-hung fog of Ecliptor Station. Cadets poured into its open-air plaza like rivulets of moving metal, synth skin, and chitin, their laughter bouncing off the stone. Everything smelled of ozone and sterilizers. Then Daniel Carter limped through the outer gate. He had one arm in a sling, fresh stitches still purple across his brow, and a bulky medical boot clamped around his left foot. The bruises blooming across his ribs forced him to breathe shallowly, which he did without complaint. His regulation duffel was slung over his uninjured shoulder. The laughter began immediately. Clusters of cadets turned, squinting at the hunched figure making his way up the long entrance ramp. Their eyes silver, black, stalked, glowing, tracked the awkward swing of his leg, the bandages on his wrist, the gauze barely hidden under his uniform collar. Whispers became chuckles, then open mocking. "Earthborn," someone called out, warbling with delight. "What's he going to do? Bleed on us?" A tall Vrusk cadet, lime green with rippling muscle plates and a chest insignia barely earned, peeled away from his squad. He strode up the ramp to intercept the limping human, towering almost 2 ft above Daniel. "No augments?" the Vrusk asked mockingly, his glossy skin twitching with amusement. "No rebreathers, not even adaptive dermal shielding?" Daniel didn't answer. He stopped walking, turned his head slowly, and looked the Vrusk in the eye. "If you get any closer," Daniel said, voice low and even, "you're leaving without your limbs." The Vrusk cadet blinked once. Behind him, his squad howled with laughter. Daniel took one more step forward. The scanner embedded above the gate let out a sharp chirp. A red light bathed the plaza in a sudden glow. Words scrolled across the scanner's output screen in crisp Galactic Basic. "Earthborn, do not engage." Then below that, blinking, "Warning, trained in human strike combat. Style Muay Thai. Limb loss likely. Avoid physical engagement." The laughter stopped like a dropped signal. A dozen heads turned. The Vrusk's mandible, his face twitched once. He hesitated. Then a young cadet, a six-limbed Tassari, all quick limbs and even quicker pride, lunged forward. He was mid-leap when Daniel's eyes narrowed. Weight shifted, right foot planted. The left, despite the boot, pivoted just enough. Daniel caught the first strike with a compact roll of his uninjured shoulder. His elbow came up like a piston once, twice cracking into the alien's upper limbs. Bone, or the equivalent, snapped. The cadet shrieked. Daniel stepped in, fast and close. A knee strike buried itself into the alien's abdomen. Another met the side of the Tassari's leg. Daniel twisted, locking one lower limb, and drove the cadet sideways with calculated violence. Crack, crack. The cadet collapsed, twitching, his limbs pointing the wrong direction. The whole plaza froze. Medical drones dropped from above like avian hawks, scanners already humming. They hovered over the writhing Tassari, mechanical arms stabilizing fractures and injecting rapid sedatives. The plaza fell silent, except for the soft hissing of pressurized foam and the whir of scanners. Daniel exhaled carefully and retightened the straps on his boot. A few heartbeats later, a uniformed figure approached briskly. Commander Havoc, slender, scale-skinned, with eyes like glass, stopped beside the fallen cadet and glanced at the still glowing scanner, then back at Daniel. "You didn't think to issue a more formal warning?" "I did," Daniel said flatly. He didn't listen. Havoc's didn't respond right away. One of the drones beeped an injury report. Multiple dislocations, non-compound fractures, severe tendon strain. No permanent damage, but a full rehabilitation cycle, minimum 6 galactic weeks. "Very well," Havoc said eventually. "Proceed to medical clearance. Your injuries are your own." "Previous incident," Daniel said. "Training back home." Havoc looked skeptical but didn't press. Daniel turned and continued his limp toward the main medical checkpoint. The crowd parted without a word. The scanner behind him kept flashing red. 3 hours later, Daniel sat on a medbay cot stripped down to his waist. A human physician, thankfully Earthborn, was carefully removing the dressing from his ribs. "Still tender?" she asked. "Yes," he said, "but better than yesterday." She scanned the bruising with a dermal imager, frowning. "You've got at least 2 cracked ribs and residual inflammation on the left side. You were cleared for transit." Daniel nodded. "Boot needs reseating," she muttered. You limped through your entire landing sequence with it like that. It was either that or miss intake. She gave him a look, then activated a compression gel unit and started treating the rib cage. He flinched once but didn't complain. You need rest, she said. No drills F. Or at least 4 Earth days and keep the boot on. You've got ligament damage and a hairline fracture on the 5th metatarsal. Another bad step and it won't stay hairline. Understood. She paused, then added, you're already a legend. That fight outside the footage has made it to half the academy already. Your scanner flag has its own comm thread. Daniel didn't respond. Some of the staff are concerned. They're calling you a live weapon. He looked at her, finally. It's just Muay Thai. Not to them it isn't. Word spread faster than light-speed gossip. In the mess hall, cadets shifted seats when Daniel entered. In lecture halls, they kept a healthy berth. No one laughed now. 3 alien cadets were studying the fight footage at a common terminal. One tapped the screen, slowing the moment Daniel's elbow met the Tassari's forelimb. He doesn't retract anything, said one. No kinetic dampeners, no nano assist, just velocity and bone. He uses elbows, another muttered, baffled. Weaponizes elbows. Daniel passed them on the way to his assigned dorm. He didn't speak, didn't limp as much today either. A 4th cadet, a lanky Molari with neural overlays, glanced up as he walked by. That strike sequence is illegal in 17 systems. Daniel didn't smile. He didn't have to, he just wanted to sleep. But even as he reached his room, a notification blinked across his compad. Tactical combat orientation. Earthborn exceptional case. Mandatory observation. Fighting style analysis scheduled. Start time, 18 hours standard. He sighed and quietly began rapping his knuckles. 18 hours later, the observation dome shimmered with an ambient white glow. It was sterile, cavernous, and acoustically tuned, so every movement, every breath, every shift of foot on padded floor echoed slightly, adding tension that wasn't needed. Daniel Carter stood alone in the center. His ribs were still taped. The walking boot was gone, replaced with a lighter brace, but his foot remained sensitive. The academy physician had cleared him barely under the condition that he alert staff if the pain crossed threshold again. He hadn't promised. Encircling him were 6 instructor seats, each occupied by a species with combat experience spanning light years. Half had never seen a human in actual hand-to-hand engagement. The other half had, and now watched like researchers faced with a new kind of radiation, fascinated but unwilling to touch. Above them, hovering drone cameras recorded his vitals and movement. A soft chime sounded. Initiating analysis, said the voice of Instructor Venn, a barrel-shaped Namari whose language usually required vocal harmonization across 3 throats. The academy had simplified it with a translator implant. State your origin, name, and combat discipline. Daniel Carter, he said dryly. Earthborn Muay Thai. A pause. Demonstration parameters authorized. Begin. A mechanical pod opened on the far end of the dome. A synthetic opponent emerged. Standard Academy combat drone, humanoid reinforced limbs, reaction time half a second faster than most cadets. It advanced on Daniel. He stepped lightly, exhaled, and let his shoulders loosen. He kept his guard high, elbows in, chin down. His left foot remained cautious but mobile enough. The drone feinted once. He didn't flinch, then it struck. Daniel moved. He redirected with a block, followed instantly by a knee that would have shattered cartilage in a living being. He spun, elbow crashing into the drone's midsection. A second elbow followed, uppercutting at an impossible angle. The drone staggered. A low kick swept its synthetic knee sideways. It dropped. Daniel backed off, breathing steady. The instructors murmured, taking notes. Venn tapped the display. Explain, the instructor said. Daniel didn't wipe the sweat from his brow. Elbows and knees are close-range weapons. No extension time, hard bone surfaces. Low wind-up, high impact, minimal energy loss. Efficient, said a silvery-skinned crest officer. But reckless, you sacrifice reach, Daniel nodded, because close range ends fights fast. Veen leaned back, contemplating. And the purpose of the clinch, Daniel raised an eyebrow. You wrapped the opponent's neck, controlled position, then struck with the knee. Efficient but primitive. It's not primitive, Daniel said. It's personal. The silence around the observation deck lengthened. The next drone was faster, adjusted for variable response timing, randomized attack algorithms. Daniel didn't care, it lunged. He parried with a shin block, grimaced, his foot still sore, and pushed through anyway. Closed the distance, locked its right arm with his left elbow, drove a rib strike into its side. The cracking sound was artificial but satisfying. He elbowed its head unit 3 times in under 2 seconds. The dome's lights flickered slightly. He stepped back, breathing heavier now. The sweat on his back began soaking into the gauze tape under his shirt. A red indicator lit. Tee up, cardiac elevation 129 BPM, rib pressure exceeding tolerance. He ignored it. After the session, Daniel limped not badly but noticeably into the secondary med bay. The main one was crowded again, this time with 2 cadets who'd collided during a flight simulation. One had a dislocated hip. The other had acid burns from ejecting into an atmosphere with trace sulfur compounds. Daniel's foot hurt more than he let on. "You're overextending again," said the same Earthborn physician as before. She was working late, her shift now 18 hours in, but the bags under her eyes said she didn't mind. "You know how it is," Daniel replied. "I do, and that's why I'm telling you this. Your foot hasn't healed yet. You've got soft tissue swelling again, and you're compensating. That knee is going to follow if you keep favoring it." Daniel exhaled and leaned back on the exam bench. She reapplied a localized anti-inflammatory patch, then wrapped it with compression gel. The rib scan confirmed earlier trauma still healing. "No strikes on your left side for another 5 days, she warned. "And if the brace slips, I want you off your feet." "Understood." "Mean it, Carter. You're not here to break bones, yours included." By the 3rd day, alien cadets had stopped staring and started whispering. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was the kind of awe reserved for species who didn't believe humans could survive space without assistance, let alone be dangerous in a close fight. Daniel's scanner file was now mandatory reading. The warning wasn't just "do not engage" anymore. It had been updated with a colored diagram showing joint rotation angles, average strike force velocity, and something called a human pain tolerance variance index. An Octari cadet with optical augments flagged him down in the mess hall. "You dislocated 4 limbs in 6 seconds. "No," Daniel said, not stopping. 5. Behind him, the alien muttered something and updated their data pad. That afternoon, Daniel was summoned to a new module, cross-species tactical collaboration. He didn't like the sound of it. The room was smaller than the observation dome. A ring-shaped mat filled the center. On the far side stood a cadet he'd seen before. Tall, skin like obsidian glass, 4 arms tucked neatly behind his back. The instructor for this session, Commander Rautzek, was a short, stocky creature with massive legs and a baritone voice that vibrated furniture. "You two are paired for collaborative hand-to-hand adaptation. No strikes above the neck. Non-lethal engagement only. Timer set, 90 seconds. The other cadet nodded politely. Daniel gave a half wave. The buzzer chirped. The 4-armed alien moved fast. Daniel dodged, blocked 1 strike, slipped under another, and circled. The alien was disciplined, fluid. He didn't overcommit, didn't lunge foolishly. For the first time since arriving, Daniel smiled barely. He stepped in, clinched. The alien twisted to escape, but Daniel rode the momentum, brought a knee into his opponent's hip, pivoted, and swept the feet out from under him. The alien hit the mat hard. The buzzer sounded. They lay there for a moment, breathing. Then the alien laughed, a genuine, rough chuckle. "You weren't joking," he said. "I warned you," Daniel replied, sitting up with a groan. "You use your entire body like it's desperate to end the fight before it starts." Daniel shrugged. "That's not wrong." The alien stood and extended a hand. "Zorak." "Bah, Daniel, Daniel," that was the start of it. By the week's end, Daniel had a routine: train, wrap ice, then limp to med bay, endure lectures from the Earthborn doctor, reapply compression. His ribs still ached. The foot better, not fully, but enough. Word of the Earthborn clinch started circulating. One cadet even asked if Daniel taught lessons. He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no either. He still heard whispers when he passed. "That's him. Don't get close. Use his elbows." But now occasionally teaches in the lower gym, and once I think he's starting to like it here. He wasn't sure if that last part was true, but for the first time in a long while it didn't feel false either. Daniel Carter stood barefoot on the sparring mat, sweat trailing from his collarbone down past the taped ribs, and braced his stance as Zorek circled him again. "Don't drop your back foot," Daniel said, nodding at the cadet's wide, four-limbed posture. "I have 4 legs," Zorek grunted. "I will always be dropping something. You've also got 4 joints per limb. Use them. Anchor your power from the base up. And when you clinch, don't reach, fold." Zorek narrowed his eyes and lunged. They locked again, this time without hesitation. The alien had learned quickly. His center of gravity was strange, more fluid than Daniel was used to, but his instincts were improving. No more swipes, no more overextension. Just tight, disciplined strikes. Daniel took the hit on his forearm and turned with it, letting the momentum flow past He was still healing, always healing. They broke contact. Zorek bounced back on his toes, grinning, a bruise darkening under one cheek ridge. "I almost had you that time. You almost twisted your own spine off," Daniel said, winded. "Still counts." The buzzer sounded, session over. Cadets along the wall applauded, some with actual enthusiasm, others with reserved interest. It had become routine now, Daniel teaching small group drills, alien cadets mimicking human strikes, learning the logic of a body evolved without carapace or venom glands. A few humans in the academy had started watching too. Most had enhancement packs, reflex mods, pain regulators. Daniel didn't. He couldn't afford them, not even the subsidized ones. All he had was technique drilled in over a decade of training in a Bangkok gym that smelled of rubber and iron. And scar tissue. After the crowd dispersed, Daniel sat down and began wrapping his ankle slowly, carefully. The outer tendons were healing, but the dull ache lingered, especially after sparring. Recovery wasn't about powering through it. It was about patience, pacing, and knowing when to stop before something tore. He glanced up and found instructor Havitz watching from the edge of the mat. "You're becoming something of a diplomatic curiosity," the commander said. "Not sure I like the sound of that." Neither do half the species with formal complaints in the academy log. "Your scanner entry has been reviewed by 3 separate defense attachés. There's concern." Daniel finished his rap and stood. "Concern about what?" "That a species capable of such close range efficiency lacks any biological weapons. No toxin glands, no claws, just elbows." Daniel shrugged. "Efficiency is the weapon." Havitz tapped his comm unit. "There's an exercise scheduled tomorrow, not a drill, an incident response simulation. Real scenario, minimal constraints. You'll be participating." "Solo?" "No, you'll be assigned a squad." Daniel raised an eyebrow. "Does the squad know?" "They've been briefed. They're skeptical." "Of me?" "Of whether they'll walk away intact." The briefing came early the next morning. "Simulated hostage recovery, industrial ruins," barked Commander Rautzek. "Live tactic zone with controlled variables. Squad Bravo 9 will deploy with full authorization for non-lethal subdue. Minimal equipment, no drones, no augment fallback." Daniel stood at the edge of the huddle, silent as the squad was introduced. 2 Avani scouts, a chitin-armored Urek, and a Saurian tech runner named Kel. Zorek was there too. "Welcome to the circus," he muttered. One of the Avani, smaller and serpentine, eyed Daniel with visible doubt. "We're really taking an Earthborn into an active zone." "No one else here comes with a hazard label," Daniel said flatly. "So technically, you're the risky ones." The Yarok rumbled but said nothing. 30 minutes later, they were dropped into the sim zone, a tangled nest of collapsed metal towers, toxic mist generators simulating low atmosphere failure, and blinking lights where hostiles were marked. Each squad had a different role. Bravo 9 was on breach and extraction. The squad fanned out. Kel tapped Daniel on the shoulder. "I reviewed your sparring footage," the Saurian said, his voice a raspy hiss. "You fight like you're mad at your own bones." "I am," Daniel said. The first skirmish came fast. One simulated hostile opened fire from behind an alloy barrier. The Ivani scouts moved to flank too slow. Daniel darted in low and fast, hugging the left side. He didn't rush it. He moved like he'd practiced 1,000 times before. Use the cover, step wide, stay compact. He reached the barrier and spun in, elbow first. The drone crumpled, simulated damage sensors flashing red. Behind him, the Weir Rock grunted. "That's not breaching, that's demolition." "Still breached," Daniel muttered. The squad picked up pace. Daniel stayed low, eyes scanning. A second hostile engaged Jorek in tight quarters. Daniel cut the corner just in time to see the alien cadet take a forearm hit. Daniel didn't hesitate. He wrapped the attacker's neck, twisted, and dropped low. His knee met soft body. Another simulated opponent down. Jorek exhaled sharply. That still shouldn't work, but it does. They breached the final chamber in tandem. The hostage beacon activated. The exercise ended. Commander Havitz's voice crackled through their comms. Simulation complete. Squad Bravo 9, 5 minutes, no casualties. Highest efficiency score this cycle. Daniel leaned back against a beam, heart pounding. His foot throbbed, but the brace held. His ribs burned. He didn't complain. The Saurian tech runner approached. Your fighting style. It's surgical. No, Daniel said. Surgical is careful and clean. This is ugly, but it works. Jorek sat beside him, nursing a bruised shoulder. You need to stop helping me. I can handle myself. You can, but I've got seniority in limb loss avoidance. That evening, back at the dormitories, Daniel sat with a pack of ice strapped to his ankle. The wrap job held. The bruising was deeper than yesterday, but manageable. He pressed 2 fingers against his side, still sore. The door chirped. Jorek entered without ceremony and held up a data pad. What's this? A petition, Jorek said. Optional elective, cross-discipline fighting arts. A few cadets want to learn your technique. I'm not qualified to teach. You already are. Daniel exhaled. He stared at the data pad for a long time before accepting it. You understand this isn't fun. What I teach, it hurts a lot, and most of it's just surviving long enough to get the angle. Most of life out here is just surviving long enough, Jorek said. I think your people are just better at doing it while bleeding. Daniel blinked at him, then chuckled softly. We're nothing without scars. Jorek nodded. Then maybe it's time the rest of us start earning a few. 2 weeks after the simulation, the Galactic Peacekeeper Academy issued a quiet update to its cadet manual. Section 17.3.4, Earthborn Engagement Protocols. Notice: all Earthborn cadets are now subject to automatic scanner tagging. Cadets marked with red tier hazard classification are not to be engaged physically without explicit command authorization. Close quarters confrontation is prohibited during unsupervised drills. Known fighting styles: Muay Thai, boxing, Krav Maga, hybrid unarmed systems. Status: contact risk, damage to limb likelihood high. Proceed with formal caution. Rumor had it the change came from a nervous diplomatic envoy from the Polari Confederacy who had nearly witnessed a limb break in a joint demonstration. One whispered that Daniel Carter's elbow strike had enough force to trigger the drone's internal fail-safe system. Another claimed he could break femurs through powered armor. Daniel hadn't broken any femurs, but he did break the previous week's drill record again, this time during a 3-cadet escape and neutralized sim. Jorek had handled the outer corridor. Daniel took the cramped shaft, neutralized 3 hostiles with close body strikes, and dragged a mock-injured teammate across the simulated evac zone with only 1 working ankle brace. He paid for it that night. The swelling returned. Not bad enough for the med bay, but enough that the doctor left a pointed message on his terminal. Slow down, or you won't finish the term on your own legs. Daniel iced his foot, pressed gauze to the still purple line across his ribs, and stared at the blank wall of his dorm until sleep finally arrived. The next morning, he stepped into Gym Module 4 and found 6 cadets waiting. Jorek was among them. So was the Ivani scout, 2 Malari twins who moved like mirror dancers, a hesitant-looking human from Mars Base Vega and a Saurian who didn't speak but watched everything. Daniel sighed and dropped his bag. This isn't a class, it's a mistake. Jorek raised a brow ridge. That's one way to begin. I'm not certified to teach. I don't have the anatomy maps for half of you. I don't even know if what I do translates. The Ivani crossed her arms. Then let us figure that part out. Daniel stared at them for a long time. The old muscle memory of the Bangkok gym surfaced again, nights spent with aching joints and bloodied wraps trying not to pass out during pad drills. His first knockout, his first loss, his first fight with a cracked rib and a coach who told him deadpan, if you can walk, you can fight. If you can't fight, you better damn well walk faster. He sighed again and knelt to tighten his ankle brace. Fine, he said. Line up. If I see one of you flex before I say go, you're eating mat. The first sessions were awkward. Daniel had to adapt his vocabulary. Elbow to clavicle didn't work with a species that had no clavicle. He demonstrated slowly, often repeating movements from different angles. He learned that Malari torsos were incredibly flexible, too flexible actually, and two strikes that would debilitate a human just made them laugh. Jorek's forearms gave him clinch options Daniel couldn't fully counter. The Ivani's narrow core meant body blows were a waste, but her legs were fast, too fast for traditional counters. Daniel adjusted. That's what humans did. They didn't conquer, didn't dominate, didn't out-tech. They just adapted. By the second week, the bruises had evened out. The cadets stopped being cautious. They started pushing him harder. And for the first time, he saw something rare: aliens training with humans, not out of obligation or curiosity, but out of shared sweat, pain, and grit. The Malari twins devised a spinning elbow sequence that Daniel admitted grudgingly was better than his. Jorek landed a takedown that sent Daniel limping for 3 days. Even the quiet Saurian had begun developing a brutal knee combination that required double footwork. The gym started to fill. Cadets not even in the elective showed up to watch. Commander Havett stopped by once and left without comment, though Daniel later found a requisite on approval for upgraded mats and first aid kits on his terminal. One day, mid-session, the Academy's planetary alert grid triggered. The loud, insistent chime forced all personnel to freeze. The intercom blared, "Simulation override. All cadets report to tactical readiness pods. Unknown shuttle breach in outer quadrant. All combat-ready units stand by for containment drills." Daniel looked up. The cadets glanced at him, then each other. Jorek spoke first. "Is this real?" "No," Daniel said, "but it's meant to feel real." They suited up. The drill was designed to test cross-species squad cohesion during an unexpected breach. Cadets were split. Daniel found himself paired with 3 unfamiliar recruits, none of whom had trained with him. One had never seen him fight up close. They entered the sim compound through separate breach points. The exercise began. The breach was simulated with fog machines and collapsing walls, ambient sirens, randomized hostiles, some drones, some instructors in armor. They had rules: non-lethal only, extraction priority, minimum resources, but the drill didn't follow the script. A feedback loop in one of the drones caused it to overclock. It broke the arm of one cadet cleanly at the elbow, sensors sparking too late. Panic broke out. Daniel found the cadet slumped against a wall, shielding her face as another rogue drone advanced. He didn't wait. He charged. The drone snapped toward him, too slow. He closed the gap, ducked low, and launched upward with both knees. His own ribs screamed. The drone reeled. He clinched. Then he pivoted and drove his elbow into its sensor array. 3 times, the drone dropped, sparks spilling from its optic casing. "Medical evac requested," he shouted. The cadet nodded weakly, cradling her broken arm. Another drone appeared. This one wasn't glitching, but Daniel didn't give it the chance. He moved. Not because he enjoyed it, because someone needed him to. The Academy suspended drills for a day while technicians reviewed the error logs. The injured cadet was stabilized. She'd be fine with a long recovery. Daniel was cleared. "Just bruised," the doctor said. "Rib cartilage is irritated again, but not displaced." "Still breathing?" she asked, giving him that tired look. "Barely." She handed him a fresh set of wraps. "You'll live again." The next evening he returned to the gym to find a note taped to the door. "Thanks for moving. Cadet Rena left arm still hurts, but I owe you one." He stood there for a while, looking at it. Jorek appeared beside him, holding 2 protein pouches. "You saved her." "Barely. She'll heal." "So will I." They stood in silence. Jorek finally broke it. "You know what they're calling you now," Daniel grimaced. "Do I want to?" Hazard class friendly. Daniel actually laughed. It hurt a lot, but it was worth it. Graduation was still far off. His foot wasn't fully healed. His ribs would ache every winter probably. The Academy still treated him like a red tag risk, and some aliens still gave him space in corridors, but others didn't. Jorek didn't. The Mallory twins invited him to a sparring match every weekend. The Saurian cadet had painted his elbow brace red, an imitation gesture. And the scanner at the gate still lit up red when he passed. But now beneath it, someone had added a third line in smaller text. Instructor clearance granted. Do not engage unless you're ready to learn. Daniel tightened the strap on his brace and stepped through without flinching. This time, no one laughed. They just made room. And maybe, just maybe,